Hello, it's Tuesday evening. I'm going to trim this wine cup that got thrown off the hump the other night, slow motion. The slow motion one was not a complete success. Probably won't be doing that again. Okay, so when you're doing something like this, in this case, because I took it off with that needle, I've got this really ragged bottom. But it is possible to have the rim be so wonky that it doesn't sit flat. And then what you have to do is, or at least what I do, is I put in little bits of clay under the rim to get it to the right aspect relative to the wheel head. Okay. Tools all over the place, and where's the one I need? Here we go. Okay. So, when you're trimming, there's the whole question of, how good does it have to be? I mean, we're not making parts for airplane engines. So the level of precision can vary wildly. Hopefully, when you're done trimming, the pot is balanced and not too heavy. But that's sort of up to you. And if it's unevenly trimmed too much, it'll warp. It'll take glaze differently. So one of the things they don't generally tell you when you're happily telling you about how cool it is to throw off the hump is that when you throw off the hump, what you have to face when you turn the pot over is a lot weirder than if you're throwing off a bat or straight off the wheelhead. So the big thing here, particularly when the clay is so uneven, is that I have to be steady. So if you'll notice in my videos, often one hand is touching the other, even if it's just, with one finger, and that's to make it even steadier than it would be otherwise. When I was learning at Grinnell College, there was one girl who was so steady, or was so devoted to being steady, that she would actually have the back end of the tool resting on her own chin as an extra steadying influence. Okay, that little thump there is to check the remaining thickness. I'm going a little by sound and a little by whether or not that clay retreats at all from my fingernail. And again, this is one of those things where, already it's probably trimmed enough. I'm just fussing. And there are potters who intentionally like a roughly trimmed foot ring. There's a story about rough pots that I should tell sometime. Now, the other thing about throwing off the hump is, though you may have noticed when I threw it, I used the rib to compress the clay on the inside of the bottom. But of course, the clay from the outside, until I did that, had almost no compression because it wasn't backed up against the wheel head the way pots normally are. And so I find that can make them more vulnerable to an S-crack. Okay, so this is not backing up at all. So what I'm diagnosing is that it's still pretty thick there. And that's the thing too about trimming. You're not the only thing you're committed to is or the only thing you can't retreat from is if you've trimmed through. If you trim it and take it off and discover it's still too heavy, put it back on and trim it some more. Eventually it all gets more efficient, but when you're starting off, that's the least of the worries. When you're starting off, you just want results you can be proud of. No timer. Okay, so I've done the compression, and now what wiping it with a sponge does is it gives it the same sort of skin with all these little parallel lines as the part that didn't get trimmed. Thank you.